You know, I tell you something very, very strong, you know, take it or leave it. Imagine if someone would get married and he would say, you know, I'm really married to a very beautiful girl. And then I would say, you know, what I do? Did I just like say that he didn't marry a beautiful girl? Or am I literally saying that he has no taste, right? It's not only the girl I'm talking about. It's him I'm talking about, right? You know, just bear one thing in mind. We are really the chosen people, right? What is the world so angry at us? They're not angry at us. They say, God, you didn't have good taste, right? God says, I'm giving the land to the Yiddelach, right? So they want to say to God, listen, or why didn't you give it to the Arabs, right? Suddenly they claim it's their holy place, nicht gesteuert, nicht geflogen, right? Everything, you know. The whole world, they want mamish. You have to realize one thing, you know. So strong. Right now, the war began between Yom Kippur, and right now, all the beginning, the beginning, we're reading the beginning of the creation of the world. You have to realize one thing, the world is not fighting right now. They're fighting God who created the world. Right? They're saying that the God who created the world doesn't know what he is doing. Right? Very, very strong. You know? Right now, mamish, the whole world is on a scale. You know, I was traveling on the plane. I was talking to people. You know, very strange. Right now, it's the whole world is short. All the people in the world on our side, they really believe in God. Right? There's no two ways about it. If anybody can say today, I believe in God, but they don't believe in Israel, he really doesn't believe in God. He really doesn't. You know, take all those preacherlach, you know, they take all the prophets when it comes good for a Sunday morning service, you know, for sermon. But why don't you read what the prophet said, that God is giving Israel back to the Jews? Take it. Take X-Lax and stomach it, you know. But they can't stomach it, right? Because it's too real, right? Because then they really, you know, it's mamish. You know, I'll tell you something very strong. Right now the world wants mamish to exterminate the Jews, you know. And I'll tell you something stronger, which is very, very deep. As long as they killed 6 million Jews, they just wanted to exterminate the Jews. Maybe just the Jews. Right now they really want to exterminate God. Because they want to kill the Jews right in Israel. Right in that place which God gave to us, they want to knock us out. So mamish right now have to be so strong. You know. Mamish, you know, I'll tell you something very strong. You know, my whole life, I'm not, Shalom. I don't think maybe we Jews have to be so strong, you know. I mean, you have to be inside, but maybe outside we can be more softer. You don't have to, like, take somebody from another religion and knock them off, you know. Right now I do. Right now is the time. Because right now, I as a Jew can walk up to somebody else and tell them, listen brother, are you on my side or not? If you're not on my side, you're not on God's side. And I can say it in all honesty. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. Because do I have to be better than God? This is what God is doing right now. You know, God is opening the gates of heaven. And let's see what the word is, you know. You know, a person right now, really, you know, you really just have to really examine yourself. Which side are you on? Where are you? What kind of a Jew are you? What kind of person? You know, I talked before Markele and Neman and Yosele some holy stories. I want to tell you. First of all, I'll tell you one holy story. I spoke to this wounded soldiers in Adasa hospital. You know, most soldiers never, you know, they just so wounded, it's not that they cannot move, from their bed down to the hall. That's, just heartbreaking, They're completely, not only bandaged and in those, they can't move, for months now. Anyway, but there are some soldiers somehow were able to be moved on wheelchairs and beds. So they were all together. So I was talking to them, and I said something about Avraham Avinu. One little soldier boy says to me, "Do you know how he looks like, our father Abraham?" I wish I would, He says to me, "I know how he looks like." He says, "Believe me, I see him every night in my dream." A little boy. Tell you another strong story. The thing is not only those soldiers, the way they fight, with so much holiness. You wouldn't believe how much they're shining, You walk on the street and you see soldiers walking with guns in their hands, and they're shining. They're mamish shining. They're mamish protecting Israel. They're mamish protecting God, so to speak, The most unbelievable way. This Shabbos morning, when a lot of soldiers came down to daven by the Holy Wall, it was just so holy, just cannot imagine. Gewalt, Anyway, but this is one part of it. So the second part is how much one soldier cares for the other, How many hundreds of soldiers die just protecting somebody else, When I tell you one story, which I think is the greatest in the world. I was talking to those kids never who were burnt in tanks, It was just so gruesome. God forbid you burn a little bit your finger, It hurts. Can you imagine you burn your whole body? Everything of you is burned. Nothing. Some kids have no skin on, no skin at all, It's just so gruesome to look at, It's the most gruesome thing I saw, It's even too horrible to say, Some boy had no skin anymore over his eyes, Just everything was burned, just eyes sticking out, they're all red, just. And how many operations, plastic surgery they have to go through till they put some skin over their eyes, Anyway, this boy asked him, "How long did it take you after you were burning up that the Israelis found you?" So he says it was 2 hours. Can you imagine? 2 hours. So I said, "What happened after the 2 hours?" Yes, I tell you the truth. I looked around and I saw there are kids who were even more burnt than I am. So when it came my turn, I said to the doctor, "Please take somebody else because I still have strength to hold on." This is really the Holy of Holies, An ordinary boy, I said to someone, all the stories we tell about Shem, that he was doing favors to people. All the tzaddikim would tell stories doing favors to people. Doesn't compare to this story. Doesn't compare. There was one boy, I heard a very beautiful story, Very deep. There was one boy whose father was killed in 1948 up in the Golan Heights. And in a crazy way, he knew his father's handwriting. Then you heard the story, the weird story. Anyway, this boy was one of the, on the Hermon, when they conquered back the Hermon, he walked up and he saw on a stone his father had written. Can you imagine? His father was killed in 1948. He wrote, his name was Avraham ben Yitzchak or something. And he writes on the stone, "I, Avraham Yitzchak, was here, and if my son ever comes here," wrote it in Hebrew, "I want him to know that I was here already." Tremendous. Right now we're really following our forefathers. I want to tell you something else which is super strong. Which is, there are those, and right on the sewers, there were a lot of soldiers, I mean, even during Yom Kippur, before the war began, I think the war began about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Listen to this crazy thing. 1:45, one officer who was not so super religious, walked up to a boy, and who was religious. He says to him, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to go there and do something for me. He says, I can do it tomorrow also, it doesn't burn. It's Yom Kippur today. He says, I'm telling you to do it, So he says to him, if it's an order, there's nothing you do in the army, you have to listen to orders. He says, if it's an order, I have to do it. But if you're just saying it, then I won't do it. So he didn't have the chutzpah to say it's an order. So he said, I'm just saying it. He says, okay, I won't do it. And it really had time till the next day, So the officer says, I'm going to do it myself. At that, 5 minutes later, the war broke out. And this little officer was just there, was caught the first, was killed, And the little Yidala who kept Yom Kippur was not killed. But I want you to know, all of Israel is talking about this. There was one Yechidah, how do you call it Yechidah? One little unit. And they decided, despite the war, they decided that they will not stop praying Yom Kippur. And they had always a minion out of them who kept on davening. Can you imagine? Despite all the things that was going on. And every half hour they changed. And all night long they said Tillim. And they decided also, among us, there always have to be 10 people who say Tillim. The next morning they woke up. And all of them put on film, they davened. And there's not one Yechidah from the whole Suez when nobody was wounded, when nobody was killed. It's the only one. Can you imagine? But the whole Yechidah came back. I'm strong. Listen, I'm sure, Be'ez Hashem, when days will be better, someone will collect all those holy stories, There is something heartbreaking. Yom Kippur night, late, when the Syrians attacked the Golan Heights, there was one kibbutz there, they drove up with their tanks, it's a miracle they didn't just, if they would have had more chutzpah, they could have just taken the tank and run off the whole kibbutz, but they were a little bit frightened. So this top officer ran out, and nearly single-handed, he battled off the tank, few tanks. But then Nebuch, they shot him through the eyes here, Nebuch. And he started yelling. So his friend, another high officer, ran out to help him, and they shot him in the side, So it was very, very strange, I came to this hospital in Haifa, Rambam. So the two are in the same room, those two friends. And Nebuch, the one, who was shot through the eyes, he has mamish beautiful eyes, but he can't see anymore, And from the tank, because I don't know the whole thing was, Nebuch, his hand was burned off, Nebuch, so he has no eyes in one hand. My name is Shlomo Carlebach. So he says to me, I'm sure it's good to look at you, but I'm sorry I can't see you, Nebuch, So I said, it's very, very holy to look at you, you're shining like the high priest on Yom Kippur, So he says, you're telling me stories, I don't think it's that strong, I says, believe me, I think it's even stronger, Because the high priest, when he walked out from the Holy of Holiest, had his hand on his feet, But you gave everything for the Holy Land. And strange. Got to tell you one more story, then we got to sing a song, we got to have and forget all the sad things, we got to have the holy engagement. But I want you to know one thing, During one of my little playing, so one of the little units, suddenly they caught 9 Egyptian soldiers, you know. Because they had no more water, so they came to give themselves up. It was just heartbreaking to see, you know, the way these Jewish soldiers treat those Egyptians, you know. There was one wounded soldier, and they have to tie him up, you know. So they were so careful, you know, not to tie him up just in order it should hurt him, you know. And I was standing there, and this officer was standing the whole time, be very careful, don't hurt them, and just treat them very good. The whole time, he told them 3 times, you know. So they gave them water, you know, because they were thirsty. One of the Egyptians has a chutzpah. After they gave him water, and he says, we are going to kill all the Jews because Allah is on our side. So this one sweet little soldier, you know, I tell you something, I would have knocked him off, you know. What kind of chutzpah is that, you know? Or what kind of chutzpah is that, you know? So this little soldier boy says to him, he said, maybe you want some more water, you know? I don't know if this was a level of wrong, maybe higher, you know? I'm telling you, those kids have reached heights, you know, spiritual heights in just unbelievable way. You know? I can tell you one thing, you know? I don't know if I told you that the general of the Navy, you know, I was privileged to play there, you know. There were about, I don't know, maybe 2,000 soldiers. This right mamish called me Fratz Shlomo. This right mamish by the top, the Red Sea, you know. And they're controlling the whole Suez and the whole thing. And anyway, this general sent word to me I should wait with my counsel till he comes, you know. Then he came. Okay, you know, what can you do? Such a great man, you know. I don't know if you ever followed the war a little bit, you know. They did the most heroic things in the world, you know. Can you imagine one little, they went in on a blown up ship, you know. And the blown up ship, it's made out of, how do you call it? They blow it up, how do you call that? What? What? Inflated boat. Can you imagine a million of kids went on inflated boats right into the navy of the Egyptians, surrounded by Egyptian ships, and they captured the admiral of the Egyptians. They walked up to the ship, got him out, and on this blown up ship, on the inflated ships, they brought him back to a Gewalt, you know. But anyway, I tell you one thing, you know. God forbid, imagine they would have caught one of our generals, you know, what they would have done to them. Do you know that this admiral assembled all the officers and they went to greet him? I saw pictures. They shake his hand, and the admiral says to him, you know, I'm so sorry that we couldn't invite you earlier to visit us. Would have been so much nicer, you know, would have been with us. So he says, I'm sorry. But anyway, I just want you to know, I saw pictures, the way he looks after he was caught, this Egyptian. Mama's beaming, you know. he never seen people like this, you know. I'm sure, you know, he thought was probably the way they are told was the Mamish is saw for the first time human beings, you know. And then the same day, I don't know if you saw this picture of 6 soldiers in Syrian, you know, frightened, you know, and cut. I don't know if you saw this boy, you know, his whole face is cut up, you know. Gewalt, you know. But anyway, just right now, you know, God is really showing the world. You know, I want you to know one sweet thing. Imagine if this is my shirt. It happens to be my shirt. It could have been somebody else's shirt also, right? But imagine if there's a shirt which is mamish made to my measure. Nobody else can wear it. They can wear it, but it doesn't fit them. It's more than my shirt. It really is my shirt, you know. Same as countries, you know. There are countries in Switzerland. The Germans could live there also, so Swiss people live there. You know. India, the Chinese could have lived there also, but it so happens that Indians live there. Israel, it's not just, it belongs to us, you know. It was made according to our measure. It really is so. I don't know if you know this. The Medrash says, how do we know it belongs to us? It's very simple. Because there's no people in the world who can build the Holy Land. You know, for 2,000 years, how many nations passed by the Holy Land? They couldn't build it. It doesn't go. A Yidele comes, a Gewalt. You know, in Sharm el-Sheikh, you know, the Egyptians were there for so long, you know. They lived there like animals, you know, I had to tell you bad things. For 15 years, they were living there, they didn't even make bathrooms, they were just living like animals. The Yiddelach are there, not only did build it, they're building already motels. You know? Motels. Mamash, what? Do you know how beautiful it is there? Have you ever been on a Greek island? Very beautiful. Sharm el-Sheikh is, first of all, it's the most purest air in the world, you know? Mamash, pure air. And the ocean is just so beautiful. And there's a little motel there, you know? And they're building a whole city now. And they've already put pipes there to get water. They're rebuilding Mamish everything. It's Mamish our country. Mamish. Strongest. You know, on one hand, it's really good, I tell you, politically, that the United States is not really helping us, only half. Because God really wants us to know that He's the only one who's really on our side. You know? Because if God forbid there would be one more country completely on our side, it wouldn't be so complete. You know? So it's good. They're helping us. We need them for weapons and a few things, you know, like little shamsel, you know. God told them, okay, knock it off, you know, give some weapons. It's not real, you know. Mamish not so real. I forgot to tell you, this admiral, you know, on his table, he has a Torah, you know, Tanakh, he has a Tilamel. And the Tilamel is wet from water, you know. Because he told me he never goes on a ship without the Tilamel in his hand, you know. And he goes all the time with those little ships. They have Mamish the most dangerous missions in the world, you know. I mean, it's dangerous to be in the air also, but it's not so much man to man. You know what he told me, what they did the day before it came? 2 days. He showed me, Moshe, still hanging on the wall, you know, a map of a little island, which was held by the Egyptians. It was very bad because from that island you can, you know, they really had to surround the Third Army, you know. So he says like this, most unbelievable thing, he says that 2 brothers, you know, unbelievable. Ordinary kids, you know. One is in the Navy, the other one is in the Air Force. So those 2 brothers decided we got to get this island off, you know. So he says the one who's in the Navy has only 1 arm because he was wounded in the 6-Day War. Then he says he was 2 years in Egypt as a prisoner of war, and they knocked him off, and his mamish, every part of his body is sick, you know. And he was begging him, he says, you know, you cannot join the army now. He says, I got to, you know. And he took him because he's mamish a hero, you know. So he says his brother took a little plane at night and he flew around a little bit the island to measure the island, to know exactly how big it is, how small. Then the brother, can you imagine, took a little blown up boat again, and he had a few kids. And mamish a gewalt, you know. One was attacking from this side. There were thousands of Egyptians on that island, you know. And a few kids, mamish, took over the whole island, you know. In the middle of the night. And the Egyptians surrendered, you know. Because one came and blew it up from this side, and the other from the other side, and they were in the middle. So they just gave themselves up. I'm sure after they gave themselves up, and they saw the only 2 blown up ships, you know. It's 20 Yiddelach, you know. But you know what the strangest thing in the world is? You know, you and I know the truth. Take the whole world. Do you think the world ever taught their children history about the Maccabees? Never. Have you ever studied history? Maccabees? That 71 people drove out the whole Greek Empire? Did they ever study about Bar Kokhba? That's the strangest thing, as if he would have been betrayed by spies. Bar Kokhba could have knocked off the whole Roman Empire. The truth, right? In history, did they ever teach about the 6-Day War that Mamish kids knocked off the whole world? Or even today, I haven't seen one newspaper writing anything good about the Jews. We're just happy if they don't write much too bad, You know what it is? Because all those kids, they're really connected to that which is hidden, From another world, Mamish from another world. Just hope for the best. Can someone bring me my guitar and let's Mamish go strong. We need some candles and let's Mamish celebrate like mad.